Matthew's back for more.
Awesome.
So,
Did you have a different claim or anything that you wanted to talk about, or what was?
Uh, kind of like how accurately you have faith in what you think is going to happen with people, like predicting, like
Okay.
what someone else is going to do.
So the idea of being able to predict other people's behavior.
Yeah, or intentions, both, I
Okay.
guess.
So do you think we can? Can we predict people's behavior?
I think you can look at factors that are motivating them
Okay.
and accurately predict. But to do that in the moment when you only have a split second to talk to them, it's difficult. You need time in order to do it,
Mm.
and you need to know like what's motivating them. They're like whatever, like maybe their job, they're trying to get money a certain way. The girlfriend wants them to do this. They've got a passion to do that.
Okay.
Like, and then also, and sometimes it's just more basic stuff like, you know, a lot of people I've noticed don't have a lot of loyalty to people they don't know well. Like
Mm.
they won't deliver on a promise, even to someone they don't know. If it's a stranger, they feel less obligation to still respect whatever deal they made. So I feel like it's harder to usually like I guess how long you've spent time with them gives gets it so you have a more accurate prediction of what they're going to do
Okay.
because you know what their loyalty is. That you probably know several factors about their life, or what's influencing them. Um, but I feel like that's why with so many relationships when they're starting out, whether it's a friendship or a group of friends or like a romantic relationship, most of them I feel like get cut short because you find out something about somebody and it doesn't align with your goals, so then you just go and do something else. But sometimes it does connect, and those are the relationships that we still have today.
So what is it that uh, makes you think people are kind of predictable if you know their motivations? Why? Where did that idea come from for you?
Just from observing,
Okay.
just yeah, that's just what I noticed. How people operate. A lot of it is, and that's why people can be extremely manipulative without having any empathy for someone else because they know the motives so well. They know how to use people so well. The connection doesn't matter at that point.
Hmm.
They can fake a connection quite easily. And you have so many people in power that are like that. They just view other people as objects or other people as resources to just use.
Hmm.
So, you know, some people are so good at predicting. Um, and certain, I feel like some things make it easier to predict. Like if you're in a position of power, it's probably more predictable how people are going to act around you because you know that they want your resources to some degree. So they're going to orient themselves in a way to get what they want. It's more easy to see.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's any position. You could have something where, you have no chips in the game with somebody you just met. It's
Hmm.
very predictable that, if you make a too big of a request, you could easily be denied. So it's like I feel like your value to them is also a big predictor, is what I'm trying to say.
Do you have an example of some behavior that you correctly predicted from someone else
Hmm.
that you can share?
Um, Let me think. That's a good question. Um, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say predict. I'd say I knew it was in the ballpark,
Okay.
and I wasn't surprised when it happened, is what I'll say. So, um, a friend of mine, we were gonna we were trying to find a time to have a phone call just to chat and catch up. And at first we texted, and it turned out that it wasn't gonna work out that night. Then the next night he said he was swamped the other day, and I easily predicted what's causing him to keep flaking.
Hmm.
It's not that he's not a good friend, it's that he has a tendency to not be able to say no to people.
Hmm.
And I've noticed that through experience, through observing him. So I could tell, okay, this time he's doing this because of this. So I try to gently remind him in a positive way, to try to nudge him along so he learns to say no to people, because like I feel like if that behavior was changed, we would still have the same
Mm.
amount of phone calls we usually have. It would just be he'd be like, okay, I can make it today, and I'd be like, okay, I can make it today, and it would just happen instead of all of this stuff in the middle. So that was the time where I kind of knew I could see that this was going to happen, and it
Okay.
happened.
And how confident were you that it was going to happen? That he would not be
Um,
able to do it?
well, I'm pretty naive, so I kind of give people a lot of hope in people. It's not, I don't think it's like a recommendable character trait, but yeah, so that kind of clouded my judgment. But when it happened, I wasn't surprised at all,
Okay.
you know?
So it sounds like you were expecting almost either outcome. Like if they came through,
Yeah, I wasn't, yeah, I wasn't sure.
okay.
But but when it happened, I knew why it happened. I could analyze, I could understand his motivations for what happened, even though I didn't predict it 100%.
Right. So the idea that you can predict behavior, do you feel that strongly, or is it more, would you say that you can avoid being surprised by people if you get to know?
I think a lot of it is emotional bias.
Okay.
Like, for example, if you're like just starting to date someone and you really like them, you'll put more belief in the fact that it's going to work out just because you want it to work out.
Right.
If we could look at things with a clear mind, it would be a lot easier, to predict human behavior, but our emotions, our own what's driving our own behavior is preventing us from accurately predicting other people's behavior
Mm.
a lot of the time. I feel like the only thing that counteracts that is wisdom, just experience,
Mm.
and um, working out your own emotions. Because I feel like everyone has some kind of baggage, some spot where they're more vulnerable when it comes to interacting with people that could, you know, prevent them from seeing what's happening. I mean, a lot of people get scammed, like that's
Yeah.
a perfect example of people they're like they're emotionally vulnerable, they're lonely, and then they get scammed because, they probably know something is up, but they're so desperate that their emotions will make them believe something completely else and they ignore all of the red flags.
What what kind of red flags would you look for? Not so much with scams, but like in general for being swayed by what you want to be true, or letting your emotions cloud your judgment, I think you used the phrasing.
Yeah.
What how can you identify when that's happening?
Um, I think mindfulness is good. Just, I think it has to happen enough times for you to be able to catch it.
Hmm.
The first couple of times, if you're not aware that you're like this, you're gonna keep getting surprised. But after a while, you start to see what your patterns are, and then, you can be like, okay, if I do this, I know it's gonna happen, so I'm not gonna do it, just because you've seen it play out.
Yeah.
And I feel like that even works that also works when you're in a position of power where you have a lot of resources. When you're first learning the ropes, you might misuse things. People might betray you. Put trust in people. You think it's going to be a good bet, and then they actually betray you. You know, there's all kinds of things that just through being aware of your tendencies, you can kind of look through a more non-judgmental mindset and figure out how to um, interact with people. And I think this is getting pretty analytical. I do want to emphasize the importance of empathy,
Hmm.
um, and I think empathy can sometimes be a source of weakness if it's not met with wisdom,
Hmm.
because then you could totally be manipulated. You're in a very because you're just open to give, and without any awareness of what's going on. But when you gain that wisdom, you're able to give in more skillful ways. And I think the empathy can guide you, and instead of having to be aware of everyone's motivations, you can just kind of let this more emotional presence guide you instead of, because like there's people that are extremely successful with people that are very manipulative.
Hmm.
Then there are people that just like they've just become very warm over the years and kind, and they've also gained experience. And so I feel like there's two different ways that it happens where somebody, gets to a point where they can predict human behavior very well. And it's ultimately, I mean, it could even be considered like good versus evil, like
Hmm.
whichever path you choose. So yeah.
Okay. And so if you let just the analytical side kind of lead the way, you could get to the point where you're manipulating people as opposed to letting empathy,
Yeah, but you also do too much empathy,
right?
and then people are
And
going to be
then you get
manipulating
taken
you.
advantage of.
So
Okay.
you need to
Yeah.
balance the two in a skillful way.
Mm, right. Cool. Well, I feel like I have a better understanding of what you mean about predicting behavior and the difference between manipulation uh and and empathy. Um, that's that's been interesting. So
Yeah, of course,
yeah, thank you, Matt. Is
of
there
course.
anything else you wanted to add or ask about?
Um, I just think this thing, getting along with people, is something that we all have to deal with on a daily basis, and I feel like it kind of defines us.
Mm-hmm.
So, taking the time to kind of think about how can I be kinder to myself or others in a wise way, of course.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's what's gonna make the world a better place.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
yeah.
Cool. Well, thank
Okay.
you so much for the interview, Matt.
Yeah, of
Appreciate
course.
you. Nice meeting you.